So we are discussing this point 9 and we almost came to the end of the chakra 9s. So we are on to this topic of asking Daji. It's an interesting question here. What happens to my soul after I die? So the response is at the time of death, your soul ascends to a dimension that resonates with the vibration of your soul. There are infinite dimensions, so soul will always find its exact vibratory match. It's a perfect fit like a lock and key. If the consciousness has evolved beyond the fifth chakra, then the soul attains liberation. For such a soul, there is no rebirth unless it chooses to take birth. The journey of a liberated soul is guided by the spirit guides in those dimensions. If the soul does not attain liberation, then depending on its karma, the soul enjoys a period of salvation and take its birth. At each dimension, there are spirit guides. Some spirit guides travel back and forth, visiting many dimensions. So there is always a designated spirit guide or a team of spirit guides to look after our spiritual progress. There are there too a spirit guide who's who is fixed at a certain dimension who sorry there too a spirit guide who is fixed at a certain dimension has no liberty to move up, but there are spirit guides who can go to any dimension up or down. Thus spirit guides who have the freedom to travel across dimensions are highly elevated ones. Okay, so let's get into some explanation here. There is a book called Laws of the Spirit World. So this was an it's a very interesting book. The reason I am referring to this book here is it basically explains the same thing what Daji answered here. So these are two brothers from Mumbai, India, who happened to die in an accident, and then through a soul communicator, they reach out to their parents and they teach the parents how to communicate with the soul. And then once they started communicating, they sort of explain the environment, the vibratory state they are in. And so it starts of start explaining like the heaven. They did not talk about hell, of course. Why I'm saying, of course, because Babuji said many times, I looked for the hell everywhere, but I did not find it. So indirectly, he meant we are already in there as an earthly life. But according to the scriptures, Indian scriptures, there are seven dimensions, or what is called lokas, below the earthly plane, and there are seven dimensions above the earthly plane. And in one of the Indian texts, Gita says it doesn't matter whether you are below or above, you'll return back to the earthly plane. Even the highest dimension above the earth, the seventh dimension above earth, which is known as the 14th dimension, is known as Brahmaloka, the abode of the Lord. Even if someone reaches that stage, we have to come back to the earth. So it's still not considered as a permanent liberated state. So possibly The true moksha or the liberated state lies beyond this seventh, 14th dimension. So it's a depending on what dimension we arrive at as we alive through spiritual practice, through devotion, through prayer, then we are subjected to that dimension after we passes away. We leaves this mortal body. And so this book, The Laws of the Spirit World, talks about at every dimension there are spiritual guides who are guiding you further. And it also says, and this is again written in the scriptures as well, the fastest growth happens only in an earthly plane. Somehow, this earthly plane has that dynamics where we can grow faster compared to other dimensions. They say other dimensions go very slow. That is why the scripture says even the angels, the gods, they would like to take birth on earth so that they can grow faster compared to their dimension. So such is the beauty of the earthly plane, and such is the beauty of the great masters of the past, present, and future, who can take us beyond these dimensions, right? There are so many. I mean, it's not just heartfulness masters, there are so many who came to help guide these beings, humans, to go beyond. So, and each dimension has to, comes with its own existential issues. So even in a vibratory state, still there is an existence. It's an existence of the consciousness with all the impressions. So each dimension comes with its own laws, its own regulations, its own way of working through. Maybe you don't have a physical body here in this dimension, but you do have a conscious body. You do have a way of communicating with other spirit guides or other people in that dimension or other beings in that dimension. Sounds like a science fiction, but this has been said like, all along. Every religion accepts there is afterlife, right? So there is heaven or hell, something is taking over you and then you're guided. So there is always guidance, that's why in spirituality, nowhere you will see this concept of punishing God. There's no punishment. Who has to punish us? Once I was talking to an old lady from the church. So she said, okay, I'm at the fag end of my life. When I go there, God is going to judge and he's going to put me either in hell or heaven. So then I asked her, what do you think his judgment going to be? And she laughed. And then with a big laugh, she said, I'm sure I'm going to hell. So I told her, see, you have already decided. Then I said, see, suppose if you build a clock, would you build a clock where you have to adjust every second by your hand, or would you build a clock where it adjusts by itself? She says, I build a clock which adjusts by itself. So do you think God is a fool to watch us every minute and then make a decision? He probably has put that system already into you, and which is our consciousness. So we all know what is right. Even a dog knows what is right or wrong. If the dog is doing something wrong, it will hide under the bed and it won't show up to its owner. Even the dog knows what is right, what is wrong. what should be done and what should not be done. So everybody knows. But we fail in conforming to the righteous path is because, I mean, it's like kids answer, because, and after that, they pause. And I'm going to pause as well. So, because we all know why we are failing. It is not more of a failure. Somehow we feel our behavioral patterns become so compulsive, and we never understand why such a such a compulsion, right? It's because the impressions are compelling us to choose certain patterns. So these impulses are the impressions are the one which are pushing us in many directions. So when these impressions are removed, then we'll have the ability to, choose the right path, right? It's not that we are ignorant of what is right or wrong. It is our compulsive attitudes are making us go in one way or the other. And these attitudes are because of the impressions. When the impressions solidify, they become tendencies. That's why the cleaning doesn't help with the tendencies. So it requires a higher force, which is transmission. And another higher force we can apply on ourselves is the prayer. Through prayer and transmission, we can get rid of these solidified tendencies. Through our cleaning, we can get rid of the impressions but not the tendencies. So it requires transmission and prayer, right? So I'll stop here for any comments, questions.
Brother, I had a question.
Yes.
Um, on that statement, the soul will always find its exact bright vibratory match. Um, is that I realize that's referring, Master's answering the question from a spiritual point of view, but would you say that that also happens to us here, or it's not possible in our present situation?
No, we are always making choices according to our vibratory state. Our experience of life, even here, is according to our vibratory state. So, I
Okay,
mean, if you ask me what is life, life is nothing but an experience. It's a consciousness experiencing this existence, this dimension of existence. And each consciousness, each of us are experiencing things differently. The same ice cream you would experience differently, I would experience differently. Reason, our vibratory state, our conscious state is creating that experience. So it is always only, all existence is according to its vibratory state. So right now our vibratory state matched earthly dimension, so we are here. But from here we are working on ourselves to improve, go beyond this dimension. As we go beyond this dimension, even our earthly experience is changing, right?
okay, yes.
So
Uh,
it's all consciousness experiencing its vibratory state, and accordingly, all our experiences, are different. So it all
Right.
depends on each individual's vibratory state. I mean, I was reading an article why tomato juice tastes so good on an aeroplane. Normally, I would never have the tomato juice in. I wouldn't buy it. See, why? Because, there you almost come to a present state. You drop all your problems and you're just are there, and nothing to disturb you, nothing to distract you. Everything tastes good. See, just by small modification in your vibratory state makes things look good or bad. It's not
Hmm.
about the tomato juice, it's about you, right? So
Right.
that's how the vibratory state changes, modifies your experience also.
So that's the reason why, um, all of a sudden, well, I don't know if it's all of a sudden, but it seems like something that you had oh, uh, done or participated in, or um, I don't know another way of putting it, but something that you had been around that you never really gave a thought to. It appears to start bothering you, and you don't want to. You start seeing it in a different way, and you start staying away from it.
Right.
Um, that's what's maybe happening,
Yeah.
right?
See
I mean,
the
you start looking at it, and you end up realizing this really isn't a good thing,
right.
or you need to be somewhere else. Okay.
Yeah, we are always thinking the grass is green on the other side.
Well,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, I guess I guess so, but also that feel that you start looking and just realizing that, some of the habits um, that you either see and tolerate or you participate in, it's just all of a sudden you see
Yeah.
I guess, the incorrectness of it. I was wondering I've always kind of wondered about that things seem to be changing.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for bringing up the discussion. Yes, I mean, things change because our perception is changing, right?
That's the word,
Yeah.
perception.
Yes. Perception is changing. Why perception is changing? Because of your change in your conscious state, vibratory state, right?
Right.
So, someone is very dear uh, and a great friend, we think, and suddenly the same great friend becomes an enemy. We cannot tolerate that friend. Or even in relationships, it happens like that, right? So, reason is it's not that that person has changed, it is our perception of that person has changed. So, we become too judgmental. It is easy to judge others, but not ourselves. So that's why, Daji says it's people find it very difficult to meditate because now meditation shows what you are, and we don't like it. Okay, so all right, so moving to the next topic. So the journey at the ninth chakra shows how insignificance help us rise to great heights of consciousness. It shows the beauty of nature's design, where the number where the humbler we become, higher we rise, and lighter our ego becomes. So, the grander the states of consciousness that descend into our heart. So, it's all about humility and purity of the heart. See, again, humility is not something, it's an attitude. It's not an attitude. Humility is, this is something I can say that it sort of revealed to me in my meditation. Humility means accepting the entity before you as is. That means we are not thinking this guy is greater than me or lower than me. There's no comparison. It's an acceptance of the entity before you as is. Okay. Then your attitude that towards that person, your judgmental attitude towards that person completely nullifies because you have already accepted it. Once you have accepted it, there is no judgment. But having that person's company is good for you or not, it's your wisdom decides, and based on that, accordingly, you either distance yourself or become close to that person. So there is no judgment there. There is an acceptance first. So that's why humility is all about acceptance, and purity of the heart is where we become totally insignificant. We recognize it's all God's creation. And God's creation is not going to be, every person, everything is going to look the same, right? As they say in Homer, there are only two colors mentioned. And someone did some analysis and said maybe during the Homer's time people were colorblind. Okay. So then later all these colors emerged in books. Only few colors. And then initially it's all black and white. And then some blue and green popped into the books and different colors. So you see, like even our books, our things reveal so many things. If we have the heart to see. So the self reflection, have you experienced a feeling of overwhelm, brought too many choices? How did you overcome this feeling? What are your thoughts at this point about the importance of humility in order for you to grow further in spirituality? So, all these questions sort of, we don't try to answer. Like I said last time, you already know the answers. If we are ready to accept, that means if you are humble, and if you are ready to receive, then the answers, we don't have to do so much analysis as it is asked here. We sort of know the wisdom guides us, inner wisdom guides us. Okay, with this we can end chakra 9, and then we'll move to 10th chakra in our next week session. So I'll pause here for any comments, questions, otherwise we can get into meditation. All right.